Sure. Huh? You hear me now? You can't do anything. There's no just in case. You can't do anything. Namo Kinchana Vittaya Nirvita Guna Vittaya Vittaye Atmaramaya Santaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. My obeisances are unto you who are the property of the material impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material nature. You are self-satisfied, and you are the most gentle and master of the monists. I think we did this yesterday, didn't we? Brenda?
Yes, Maharaj.
I think we did this verse yesterday.
Oh, okay. Okay, Maharaj. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Manye Tvam Kalanam.
Guru Maharaj, yesterday we couldn't finish it because the internet dropped out. Would you mind just doing the same verse, please?
Yeah, okay. I can do that.
Thank you.
Go back to 27.
Thank you.
I'm not going to let you touch the computer. Because if you change the settings on the computer, and it's not going to work in other places. So I'm not going to, that's not allowed. Okay. And so you just wasting your time. I told her, I said, I'm not going to allow any changes on my computer.
That's not to observe. If something happens, you just observe and I can say to a technician what's happening.
It's just, it's the system. It just falls off. It lasts. Okay, we can, since I read the verse and purport yesterday, I'll just speak now. There's a nice example that's mentioned here of the Srila Sanatana Goswami. And it comes with a little bit of a story, which illustrates the point of this particular verse, that those who are on the path of material advancement, this is as reflected in the previous verse, cannot with feeling emotions approach you because their minds are focused on gaining something material. Therefore, Krishna is the property of the materially impoverished. So we have to understand that in the context that is given, material impoverished means those who are finished with trying to enjoy the material world. Although one may have wealth, position, and situations, just like Queen Kunti, she is in a very good material position, but doesn't mean she can't be Krishna conscious. But the problem is that when everything is taken away, we have the example of also Pingala, the prostitute. Pingala was a prostitute, and she was very eager to gain money. she would stand outside of her door and observe the passerbys, people passing by. And she would think, oh, this one looks like he has good money. Well, this one will be really happy to enjoy with me. So her mind kept going to one speculative situation after another. Finally, the whole evening, no one came. And by midnight, she was completely despondent. In her despondency of not being able to fulfill her desire, and she had a dual mood. Her mood, although she was a prostitute and her main thing was money, she enjoyed her particular service, having relationships with so many unscrupulous personalities. So both of those combined to make up her desire. But when none of that happened that one evening, she completely felt despondent. And in that despondence, she develops a sense of detachment. And in that sense of detachment, she starts to understand that she's wasting her time in trying to pursue material happiness and material gain. And she's neglected the real lover of her heart, which is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there's a whole series of expressions. It's called the Song of Pingala, how she denigrates herself, saying that, no, I can see that I've been wasting my life, wasting my time. I'm such a low-class person, and I've neglected the real treasure of my life. Now she wants to become Krishna conscious. And so when using the example of Pingala, then when detachment comes, then bhakti can arise. As long as we're still attached to this material world and the gain that we can seek after in this material world, then we can't be Krishna conscious. It's not possible because these two things they're completely opposite. And one has to detach themselves from all desires for gain and safety in this material world and simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in devotion and know that this is the safest and the place where all of one's real desires, that means the desires for happiness, the desires for elevation, desires for love, can be fully and completely satisfied. So the story of Pingala, as it's mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is very, chapter number 8, for those of you who would like to read it, starting with verse number 22 of the chapter. You'll find that what she goes through is quite instructive as she expresses her detachment in the form of disgust for what she was attached to. And this is also a feature of reaching a point of detachment. Because after detachment reaches a certain level of acceptance and becomes a part of one's nature, then one looks back, or when one looks back, towards how they were attached to things in this material world, there's a sense of disgust that arises with that. We also had Jamunacharya, who was he was a great king. And before that, he was a great devotee, but somehow or other, he inherited a kingdom. And in that kingdom, as a king, he was enjoying royal happiness in so many different ways. And he had forgotten about and simply neglected his previous life as a young boy growing up in a very spiritual atmosphere. But now, after somehow or other, by the mercy of one of his disciples, he came back to renunciation. And in that renunciation, he really rejects everything that he was doing in the form of a king and to enjoy royal happiness. Prabhupada quotes his statements quite often to show that, yes, when you reach a certain level of Krishna consciousness, you look back at this material world and you think, oh, how useless. What a waste of time. I spent all these years wasting my time trying to be happy in something that was just contrary to my desire to really become happy. It was all a waste of time, and you start to see, and you start seeing other people who are still chasing after this material world is simply fools. They don't know where is their real benefit. They work so hard. They sacrifice so much time, energy, even in their life, in order to enjoy a few fleeting moments of some sense gratification, which just leaves them unsatisfied in the end. So this detachment is one of the principles of moving forward. Now here we'll also illustrate, as it's mentioned in this particular purport, Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami was living on one mountain called, let's see, what was the name of that mountain? Can't remember the name. But he was living there in seclusion and doing his bhajan. One man who was very avaricious for wealth had worshipped Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva said, well, you have satisfied me. Now, since you want something of that wealth, the only place that you could fulfill that is that you go to Sanatana Goswami, and he has a touchstone. A touchstone is a particular stone. You can't find it on this earth planet anymore, but it did exist one time on this earth planet. Because as Kali Yuga came in, the touchstone was no longer available. And that touchstone would be you touch it to something metal, and immediately that object would turn into gold. And so Sanatana Goswami, according to Lord Shiva, possessed one. And the man came to see Sanatana Goswami. And so he approached the sadhu, Sanatana, very humbly, and started to offer prayers and glorify. And then he made his proposal. I heard you have a touchstone here. So please, I've come. Please let me have the touchstone. Oh, Sanatana Goswami said, oh, yes, that touchstone. You just go down that road there. You'll see a pile of refuge there. And amongst that refuge, you'll find the touchstone. So the man became quite excited, left, went to the refuge pile, dug around, and found the touchstone. And then he was touching different things. One thing after another, he kept touching, and it was turning to gold. And he was becoming very happy and wealthy at the same time. But then he started to think, you know, Sanatana Goswami is a very intelligent. Don't do anything. Just sit down. Sit down, listen to me. Sanatana Goswami is a very intelligent person. How is it possible that he could keep such a valuable object in a refuge pile? he must have something more valuable. I'm going to try and get that. So now he returns to Sanatana Goswami, approaches him, says, my dear Sanatana, I have the touchstone and I've made so much gold. And I know you are such a wise sadhu, a great personality. I can understand that you have something even more valuable than this touchstone. So I would like that. Please give it to me. So Sanatana Goswami, he looked at the person, he said, yes, I can give it to you, but first you have to do one thing. What is that? You have to relieve yourself of the touchstone. You have to throw it away. Oh, throw away my touchstone? If you want this more valuable object, yes. Okay, reluctantly, but with faith in Sanatana Goswami, he threw the touchstone away. Now he's eager to receive the greater gift. And then Sanatana Goswami said, now you carefully repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we might think, oh, okay. But what is that chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra? And how does it relate to throwing away the touchstone? It relates that as long as we are still attached to this material world and trying to enjoy the objects in this material world, we really can't enter into the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Krishna reserves the right to allow whoever he wants to chant his name with love and devotion, with the benefit of receiving the mercy of the name. So one may recant the holy name of the Lord and still chase after material things, but then what one is getting is a reflection of the holy name, but not the real holy name. It's like a shadow of the person. The real holy name remains hidden because we're still looking into this material world for something to find some satisfaction, some happiness, some peace. Therefore, the process is to continue to chant the holy names of the Lord, but at the same time, gradually reduce our attachments to this material world. And how we gradually do that is by accepting the fact that anything in this material world cannot fulfill the need of the heart, the need of the soul. It can give some satisfaction, temporary satisfaction to the mind, but then that's what it is. It's temporary, and it leaves one, again, desiring all kinds of things. So, therefore, one has to understand that Goloka Premadana Harinam Sankirtan Ratin Janmino Kani imply that this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is the jewel of the spiritual world. The devotees in the spiritual world, they chant Hare Krishna. They sing and dance to the sound of the chanting of the Hare Krishna. And they inspire others to engage. When we have our kirtans on this worldly level, when the kirtan is so intense and the enthusiasm is building by the devotion of the singers and the responding audience is feeling the mercy of the holy name, one becomes absorbed in that chanting, one leaves the material world and tastes a drop of the eternal loving mood that is situated deep within the heart of each and every living being. So no one can really describe the glories of the holy name. It's not possible. It is way beyond anyone's ability is Krishna himself in sound. So here is the way out of the material world, is to understand that here what we have is something valuable. But in order to bring it about, two things are important. One, we have to develop a disgust or at least a sense of detachment from everything material. And at the same time, we have to associate with devotees who have developed a taste for chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It doesn't mean we have to give up our material possessions, our family, our home, any of these things. But we have to understand these things are not the source of happiness. They may be necessary and needed in order to keep us stable in our position in the material world. And it also may give us some opportunity to use these things in the service of the Lord. Just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays, he wants to use his mind, his body, his words, his family members, his possessions, his home, everything in the service of the Lord. He's tasting the happiness of transcendental vibration. And at the same time, he's still dealing with worldly affairs, but his worldly affairs are simply external and just what we say, a requirement at a certain time in one's life. Of course, the Vedic culture teaches us as we move on in life, as we go through the different stages of life, when we start passing the age of 50 and start moving into the later years of life, they say 50 begins old age. 40 is the end of the 40s are the end of youth or middle age, and the 50s is the beginnings of old age. And 70, it means you've really reached the stage of old age, at least according to Kali Yuga calculations, and also which is supported by the Shastras. And so gradually then we think, we've tried everything, we've done everything. Where are we? We're left with only, remnants of memories that really can't give us any hope for the future or any satisfaction in the present. And we simply understand, let me chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Let me worship the devotees and serve the devotees and associate with the devotees. Even if we haven't reached these older ages, I'm just using this as an example for those of us who've gone through most of the attempts to enjoy this material world and now are engaged in devotional service. So it doesn't mean we have to hate our family members or friends or our work colleagues or just our material possessions. We have to see with them what they are. They are simply, items that have come into our life in order to stabilize our emotions and our needs on a material level. And that's all. But then again, just to repeat the point, as we move on in life, we should be detaching ourselves more and more and more. And that detachment comes with attachment, because you can't be detached without becoming attached. As we attach ourselves to Krishna more, and how do we do that? Hearing about Krishna, chanting Krishna's glories, remembering Krishna, worshiping Krishna in his form as a deity, associating with devotees who are hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord and who are serving, taking only prasadam that is offered to the Lord in devotion, Krishna prasadam. All of these things will increase our mood of attachment to Krishna more and more, because all of these are meant to awaken the soul's nature towards God. Because what we're doing now on the spiritual, on the material level, in terms of our devotional activities, is what we'll be doing in the spiritual world, the same thing we'll be doing. But we'll be doing it in association with Krishna, who is personally present in his transcendental form. And there's no inebrities, there's no cessation. Everything is pure spiritual energy. Spirit is by nature always expanding, never contracting, never decreasing, never becoming unpleasant. Spirit is always the nature of joyfulness. That is the nature of spirit. So when we start understanding deeper the benefits that are there in Krishna consciousness and practicing to achieve the sweetness and the mercy of these benefits, then as these things increase, we look at our material life and we think, what's in it? But we need to go for that, as they say, higher taste. Until you get the higher taste, it's hard to become detached. You can do it theoretically, and we should try to do it theoretically, but it's hard to maintain unless you can taste the happiness of Krishna consciousness. So what are we doing? We're always arranging for devotees to come together. That's why we want to have program after program after program. Every day a program, every minute a program, to hear and chant the glories of the Lord and to enjoy the association of others who are doing the same thing. Because when you do it in association with others, it becomes so wonderful. When we do it alone, it's not so wonderful. But when we do it with devotees, it is the height of spiritual happiness. Okay, so this verse is very powerful. And it says here, because the Lord is the property of the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally. The devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord to lessen their miseries and poverty, or because they want to find out more in a speculative way. They are transiently attached to one another. The Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atmarama, self-satisfied. Okay, so this is Krishna consciousness. It's an ocean of Anandam Buddhivardha, ocean of transcendental happiness. When you dive into the ocean, you can never reach the bottom, because the bottom is you can swim. If say you have all your snorkel equipment on, and you're well equipped with an oxygen tank, and you're ready to go into the depths of the ocean, you can never do that. The ocean is too deep, it's too vast, and one could never do that, even in the greatest amount of arrangement. So in the same way, one can never reach the end of transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness, because Krishna is that source, and therefore he is Rasavasai. He is the source of all loving relationships, which are compared to sugar cane. When you taste sugar cane, you think, wow, there's nothing sweeter than this. And that's material. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for explaining about this beautiful verse with many, many different points. Thank you so much. I request devotees, if there are any questions, comments, please go ahead. Also, please turn on your videos if possible. Maharaj, I have one question. So you gave the examples of Pingala and also Yamunacharya, like how they developed detachment later on. Like Pingala, first she was attached to materialistic things, and then later she realized about detachment. Same happened with Yamunacharya. So did it happen with the association of any devotee, or they themselves got the realization? Because
No, with Pingala, it was complete frustration to fulfill her desire. In that frustration, she simply gave it up. As soon as she gave up her attachment, she felt a sense of satisfaction that came with that.
okay.
With Yamunacharya, he voluntarily gave it up after realizing how much he had wasted his time.
Okay.
And how much he was, and how he actually understood that this material sense gratification that he was chasing after was something that he didn't really want it, but it came upon him and he accepted it, and then he got absorbed in it, and after a while he started to enjoy it. And then after a while, by the grace of one of his disciples, it's a long story, we can narrate that story sometime, he somehow or other came back. Govamangala Thakur also, due to his frustration, he also became detached. Pingala was the same thing. And in the purports, you'll see that and the greatest satisfaction and happiness comes when we give up these attachments. When we actually give it up, not only externally, but in our mind and heart, we no longer want it. There is such a feeling of relief that comes with that, which leads to Krishna consciousness.
So extreme frustration can be the reason to the path of detachment.
I didn't hear that.
So extreme frustration can be the way, can be the reason to the path of detachment. Is that correct?
I'll read you some of the verses. The prostitute felt disgusted with her material situation and thus became indifferent to it. Indeed, detachment acts like a sword, cutting to pieces the binding network of material hopes and desires. Finally, being completely disgusted, her face and throat drying up, she began to feel indifferent to her situation, and happiness arose in her mind. As soon as she started to feel indifferent, that happiness come. Just as a human being who is bereft of spiritual knowledge never desires to give up his false sense of proprietorship over material things, similarly, a person who has not developed detachment never desires to give up the bondage of the material body. So, unless one has some spiritual knowledge, it won't happen.
Mm.
But with Pingala, it happened by circumstance. She was forced to. And she berates herself. She says, just see how greatly illusioned I am. Because I cannot control my mind, just like a fool, I desired lusty pleasure from an insignificant man. Goes on. I am such a fool that I've given up the service of that person who, being eternally situated within my heart, is actually my most dear to me. That most dear one is the Lord of the universe, who is the bestower of real love and happiness, the source of all prosperity. Although he is in my own heart, I have completely neglected him. Instead, I've ignorantly served insignificant men who can never satisfy my real desires. They have simply brought me unhappiness, fear, anxiety, lamentation, and illusion. And there's many good statements in this. So yeah, when we start to develop real detachment, we can understand how useless our previous attachment is, and how foolish we were to try to even think of enjoying the way we did. Yeah, you read that story of Pingala, it's good.
Sure, Maharaj.
The purports are also expanding on the points even more.
I will read that, Maharaj. Thank you for explaining about that story. It is wonderful to see how Pingala got the realization even without association of a devotee. So we can say that, can we say that she got the realization from Krishna himself from within?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. I see Sridevi Mataji has raised her hand. Mataji, do you want to go ahead? Or is it Sukhavaha Mataji? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your lotus feet. This is in connection with the detachment, Guru Maharaj. Like you mentioned about the detachment of Pingala, but normally, in this material world, we have seen that detachment when it comes with the frustration is only temporary. How do we develop the gradual, permanent detachment?
Transcendental knowledge. Unless you have knowledge that detachment won't last.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mentioned in that series of verses, that people cannot be detached even if they somehow, if they try to give up something because they tried to enjoy it and didn't work, they will simply go back to trying to enjoy it later, or they will try to enjoy something else in its place. But one who has knowledge can move away from the idea of trying to, again, enjoy it. So for a devotee, we're receiving transcendental knowledge continuously in our Krishna consciousness. we should accept it as non-different than Krishna, this knowledge that's coming.
But Guru Maharaj, although you keep on telling us that we should be like, we listen to the class and everything, we understand it is necessary, we should be following it, but still it is like, I'm finding it really hard to get detached.
Yeah.
Is there something?
We just keep going if you're going in the right direction, it'll happen. And what is that? Sadhu Sangha, hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and engaging in devotional service. The process will give us attachment to Krishna. That's it. I'm not just talking about detachment. I'm talking about how detachment actually is destroyed, or what we say, replaced with real attachment. Because no one can be fully detached and at the same time not develop attachment for something better. This is like if you come to a child, even a little child, and he's eating some kind of candy, and you show him something else that looks nice, he'll drop that one thing and pick up the other thing. Children are like that. So we have to pick up the taste of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. So as we progress in our devotional service, we can become more and more fixed in the process of hearing and chanting. It becomes a regular affair. And then it's easy to give up these lower things.
Yeah, thank you, Guru Maharaj. That makes really more sense now.
All you have to do is strengthen your bhakti. That's all.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, just following up with Sukhava's question about gradually developing detachment. I want to know how gradual is this process? Can it stretch to many, many lifetimes, or can we do something to speed it up?
Prabhupada says you can be Krishna conscious in one moment, or it may take you millions of years. That's the process. Depends on a few factors, but it also depends on the strength of your desire, which is the most important thing.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
It's like we say, okay, we have a disciples meeting coming up, and we're going to be 3 days hearing, chanting, taking prasadam, associating with together. And then people say, well, I have no time. I got to go to work. I got to go to school. I got to do this. I got to do that. I can't come. So that's Maya. That means they're more attached to Maya. That's all. Yeah. When we make all these programs, and when the programs are all over the place, especially if you're living in London, I mean, there's like 10 programs every night in London. If you scan the London venue, you find that there's so many programs coming up. There's like this coming weekend, there's like 3 or 4 big programs coming up, not just mine. Everywhere. Hearing and chanting, this is what we want to do. And then your material life will go away. Krishna says, all right, now come back to, it's like, the Prabhupada tells the story how the old lady, she's every day carrying this heavy load. So one day she's carrying a really heavy load and she's struggling with it, and she drops the load and it falls on the ground and she can't pick it up, and she's praying to the Lord, oh my Lord, please help me, please help me, please help me. And Krishna comes and he says, what do you want? She says, please put that load on my back.
I think Guru Maharaj, we all are like that, stupid.
Yeah, that, that's the way it is, yeah. It's because we haven't entered into bhakti in a qualitative way, and we still don't understand, how bhakti is the nature of the soul. Bhakti is the nature of the soul. The nature of the mind is to try to find happiness in something that is temporary. The nature of the soul is to connect with our eternal source of happiness.
Thank you, Maharaj, for that answer. Thank you, Mataji, for those questions. It's nice to see you both together.
Thank you, Mataji. It's really nice to have Sri Devi Mataji here. Amazing association.
You're Sukaba, you're in Ireland now?
No, in fact.
In London.
In London, Sri Devi Mataji is with me.
My God, Sri Devi is like expanding herself. She's in 5 places at once.
She is. She's everywhere. Everywhere.
No, Maharaj. I'm just a tiny little ant struggling along and trying my best to understand that Krishna is the only source of all happiness. Still trying to put that bundle of firewood on my back like a stupid fool.
Me too.
Well, I hope you fail.
Me too. So come on, I'll be talking and we'll be just thinking about Mayapur and how we can all come together and start a little eco village, and we are just in bliss, just talking about it. Imagine what if we do it actually. Oh, Krishna.
Yeah, Saru Sangha, Sarva Shastri Hoy. Lavamatta Saru Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Well, just the association of the sadhu for one moment, you can become fully in love with Krishna. So powerful. Here we get into our little ruts and we can't get out.
You need to.
It's like this. There's a story of the man who was in jail. Now he's blind, and there's a wall around him, and he's in the prison house, and the wall is circular. So in the wall, there's a particular space that's wide open. So they tell him, just go around to the wall and feel the wall, and then when you come to the open space, go out, and you're free. And he's blind. So he's feeling the wall, and he's going out, and he's going around, and he's getting close to the space. As soon as he gets real near the space, a little fly comes along and starts bothering him. And he's trying to shoo the fly away, and he misses the space. And then he goes around again and he does the same thing again. When he comes back to the opening to get out, the little fly comes again and just disturbs him and he can't get out. So when Krishna says, come, or, spiritual masters says, come, Maya always says, yeah, you can go anytime. You don't have to go this time. There's so many things you can do. You got to do the important things. And that's the little fly just distracting our attention. Same thing. It's like here, I'm in London. So like Thursday night, there's a Badahari's Prabhu is coming. Indrajumna Maharaj is coming. Badahari is going to be here giving bhajans from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the Haveli on Thursday night. Kadambakana Maharaj is giving initiations tomorrow. No, Thursday morning. Indrajumna Maharaj is doing a big program on Sunday night along with Kadambakana Maharaj and Badahari. So there's so many programs that we can go and chant and dance. All of these great personalities, they come just to attract the devotees to hearing and chanting. And we're sitting in front of our little, dishwasher there thinking, dishes are not done, I can't go anywhere. When Krishna played his flute, the gopis were with their families, their friends, their husbands, taking care of their children. As soon as they heard that flute, they completely went mad and just started to run. And some of them were not even properly dressed. They were putting the bottom parts of their clothes on the top part of their bodies, putting the top part of their clothes on the bottom part of their bodies. They left their little babies, they left their husbands, they left everything just to meet Krishna. As soon as they heard Krishna's calling them with the flute. Krishna's always calling us.
But Guru Maharaj, even Krishna says that we have to fulfill our responsibilities at the same time as well, isn't it? So how do we balance that?
He doesn't say that. You said that.
In Bhagavad Gita, he did say that. Don't take renunciation, leaving your responsibilities to Arjuna.
The problem is you got too many responsibilities. That's the problem. And you're always creating more responsibilities. New ones.
It's a chain reaction, isn't it, Guru Maharaj?
It's the unlimited chain
Exactly.
with very strong pieces holding it together.
It's never ending. This chain reaction is just.
Sukava will be so happy in Mayapur, Guru Maharaj.
Don't worry about Mayapur. You're in London now. Just come chant and dance here. Mayapur is here in London. Mayapur is wherever you are chanting and dancing the glories of the Lord. That's Mayapur. You can be anywhere. You can be in the Ukraine and be in Mayapur. It's a state of consciousness. It's not simply a place of existence. It's that too, but more so it's a state of consciousness.
It's true. It's true. Krishna is so merciful that I couldn't make it to Mayapur, so he sent Mayapur over here. Can you believe it?
No, I'm also struggling to have some Mayapur consciousness. Even in Mayapur, it's not so easy. Like Guru Maharaj says, we're all stuck in our ruts and it's hard to get out.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not saying you're not doing anything, but if you're not eager to hear and chant the glories of the Lord, then you should see that as an indication you have some way to go. If you're not enthusiastic and always eager to hear and chant the glories of the Lord, then you have to do some work.
I'm remembering Guru Maharaj, Jayapataka Maharaj saying that cry for Krishna. And if you cannot cry for Krishna, cry to one day cry for Krishna. Like that. I think Maharaj's call is dropped. Huh?
Looks like it.
Yeah, I think video is off.
Sorry, Prabhuji, we took a long time. You couldn't ask your question.
Is Maharaj here?
We will wait for
I
Maharaj.
see that your hand was raised. Sorry. Please forgive us.
Mataji switched off, Maharaj.
Yeah, Maharaj's internet dropped.
I think Maharaj will
He might log back in. He might log back in.
We'll wait for some time.
Yeah.